had this big harbor, and Cologne was actually a founding member of the Hanseatic Union. So that's a union between all the big harbors in Germany and even a lot of international places with big harbors. And Cologne was one of the founding members because at the time they had also a big harbor here. That wasn't necessary because every ship that came from the North Sea came with this big North Sea ship that had like on the side they were big, and to the bottom they had a lot of deep water. But here every product had to get down from the ships and get to loaded on other smaller ships because the Rhine wasn't built here, so it wasn't like today with this hard corners and hard walls on the side. And every time you went to Bonn or Rheinland-Pfalz today, you had to have everything on smaller ships, otherwise you would wreck in some of the corners of the Rhine. So everything had to be unloaded here and loaded on other ships. And the Colognes started to make money of it because suddenly here were customs places and they had the Stapelrecht. The Stapelrecht is like they had the right that everything that was unloaded here had to be here for 3 days, and in these 3 days the Colognes had the right to buy it or to not buy it if they don't want to, but if they wanted to buy it, the merchant, whatever, had to sell it. That was the right of the Cologne people. Everything unloaded here was free for sale. So the Cologne people started to get really big bribes. Bribery was a big thing here. Customs, this Stapelrecht, everything went by bribery. After a time they had these new ideas about, okay, the Cologne people have to test everything to make sure it's good products, and if the products were good, they get these like a stamp, and then you could sell it for more money in the south of Germany. But this stamp, again, a lot of bribery. So this harbor became big simply by bribery. Everything that came through here, you had to pay a customs fee for everything. And in a short time, the Cologne harbor became a place for more than just the sailors and the merchants, because here were a lot of people, everything that had to be unloaded and loaded again, and we had a lot of beer breweries suddenly starting here in Cologne, because everyone knows sailors drink a lot of beer. So it became a big marketplace also. But in the 1800s, they started to dig out the Rhine, and you don't have to unload and load everything, because you just could sail through with your big ships. And the Cologne harbor wasn't needed anymore. So after a time, it just became everything fell down a little bit. Nothing was used anymore. And in the 1900s, this became the poor people place in Cologne. So all the old sailing stuff you didn't need, or the ship stuff you didn't need anymore, here was where the poor people lived. And after a time, there were so many people in this old harbor corner that you had a lot of criminality and a lot of pest plague issues, because they were really unhealthy. They were dirty all the time, and only the poorest of the poor even stayed here. But there was this big criminal clan who started to become important here, and after a time the police just gave up this whole place. They just built a wall around the harbor corner and gave it up. So the police didn't go in or out anymore. You had these poor people and just a lot of criminality. It was known as the Chicago of Germany, because you couldn't go out in the night. You had fear to get stabbed.
When was this?
Around 1900. Then, 1930, the Nazis took over, and they just teared down everything. So every house, everything that was here got burned or just collapsed or everything, and they built a completely new city part on top of it. So when you see now the harbor houses, they are not original. It's just the Nazis thought, oh, it's historical if you build it in this fashion. And even if there are numbers on the houses, none of these houses are older than 60 or 80 years. It's just maybe a house similar to this stood there. But the Nazis just built as a tourism historical place this area completely new. So now all the streets have these medieval names like Fish Market or Salt Street, everything like, oh yeah, it's harbor and medieval, but it's like a big tourism gem. But it's nice, so the Cologne just kept it after the Nazis, and now it's like the tourist place #1 in Cologne, because here's a lot of restaurants and a lot of breweries still, where the famous Cologne beer Kölsch is sold. And yeah, that's about this place. Other question? This church? It's a church. It's a Roman church. This part of Cologne is named after this church. It's Martinsviertel, because the church is after Saint Martin named, and it's one of the few Roman churches who are still here with this Roman building style. Fun fact, Cologne is the place in Germany where the most churches on the smallest area. Because Colognes are traditionally all Catholic, really Christian Catholic, but like we call it in Cologne, we are Kölsch Catholic, which means we don't take it so serious. So the drinking is more important than church. And the typical Kölsch Catholic people, they go into church on Easter and Christmas, and when there's something to celebrate. Okay.